Radio Raheem here with Bob Arum. Bob, obviously, we've got to talk about May 2nd. I haven't seen you since then. Even from the podium, you took some shots at how that fight was handled. Now that it's over, give me like a candid conversation about what it was like working through that fight, working through the kinks, and at the end of the day, how you felt about the results.
Well, I must say, there were two different levels. We were able to work extremely well with Ellaby and his group, with Kelly Swanson. They were all very good. We had difficulties at the Heyman level, which were sort of uncalled for, but we got through them, and the event outperformed anything that could be imagined. So all's well that ends well.
It certainly outperformed fiscally as expected. In the ring, though, we got a lot of criticism, more from fans who watch it at home, maybe even than those in attendance. Did you feel like what was in the ring was the value to the ticket and to the pay-per-view fan at home? Did they get their money's worth? Yeah,
I thought it was a very, very interesting fight. I mean, it was an extraordinarily close fight. I know the judges had it two of the judges had it 8-4. I had it much, much closer. How the judges didn't give Pacquiao the second round, I don't understand. I mean, Mayweather did nothing in the second round. Pacquiao threw a lot of punches. And also, I thought he won the 12th round. You add those 2 rounds, it's a draw. I thought, when I went in the ring, I thought Pacquiao had eked out a victory. So I thought it was a very, very interesting fight. Mayweather's style is not going to change. Mayweather has a tremendously effective style, and he utilized that style.
You had a very close fight. You said that even you felt like Pacquiao won. Of course, after the fight, there's been a huge controversy, a lot of discussion about Pacquiao's injury, when he knew about it, why he didn't disclose it. Were you involved in that conversation when the injury occurred? And who made the decision to not disclose it to the commission?
The problem here was the interaction of USADA and the commission. We were told that USADA would report everything to the commission. We reported the injury to USADA and the treatment, and it was approved by USADA, including the injection on fight night. USADA did not communicate with the commission. The commission was unaware of everything, but there was certainly no intention to conceal, because Pacquiao on his form listed all the medications that he had taken. And the last week, as predicted by the doctor, the shoulder was fine. Manny was sparring, the last 2 weeks, was sparring well, and it wasn't until the end of the 4th round that it was re-injured. So going into the fight, Manny was 100%.
So I'm hearing that you and the camp felt like the commission did know about the injury. You informed USADA, and you thought that information would be passed on, not that you meant to conceal it. Now, the reason that people can assume that it was concealed is because Freddie Roach has gone on to talk about spies in the camp, and they didn't want information getting out, and Mayweather's camp had, moles in there.
That's nonsense. It was, Mayweather has used USADA for all of his fights. So the fact that it was completely revealed to USADA shows there was no attempt to conceal from anyone. And it was unfortunate that USADA didn't pass the information along to the commission. But there was no, for example, the idea that Manny would conceal a shoulder injury and then ask the commission for the ability to take a numbing shot in the dressing room is absurd. There was no intent to conceal at all.
And lastly, on this issue, Pacquiao, we know he had surgery a couple of weeks ago now. He's back in the Philippines. When do you see Manny Pacquiao returning to the ring? And is there a possibility that we go through all this again for a rematch? How likely is that fight to be made?
I have no idea. First of all, we have to see that there's a full recovery from the surgery. I'm going to go over with Dr. Elatrosh probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks to check on Manny. We're optimistic, but it's the same operation that Dr. Elatrosh did on Kobe Bryant, and we're hoping that Kobe recovers. I mean, the prognostication with rotator cuff injuries are very, very good. And also, you got to understand with rotator cuffs, most athletes operate with tears in the rotator cuff. There are pitchers in the major league who are pitching now and striking out batters with 90% tears in their rotator cuff. It just depends on how it reacts on the body. Manny has had a rotator cuff tear since 2008. That didn't prevent him from performing at a top level, and he would have performed at a top level because, as I said, I think that he won at least half of the early rounds. If the shoulder hadn't been re-injured, which can always happen. So again, when the doctors examined him, they found the old injury, and it dated from the De La Hoya fight.
So we may see Manny Pacquiao back in the ring this year. Is that a possibility based on what you said?
I don't think so. I think it's going to take a good 6 months before he can even think of training again. But I'm not a doctor. And remember, these are all averages for recuperation. Every individual is different.
And lastly, Bob, we saw Canelo Alvarez in action a couple of weeks ago. Fantastic knockout. We just saw Triple G Saturday night. Another fantastic performance. Cotto is the wild card. Is the Cotto-Canelo Alvarez matchup a likelihood? And would you even see Triple G in his future? Both fighters are calling him out.
Well, we'll have to see about Triple G fighting either Canelo or Cotto. It's up to their management and promoters. I think Canelo and Cotto will fight, but let me tell you something. Cotto does not have an easy fight with Danny Gale on June 6th. I know Triple G destroyed Gale, but Cotto is not Triple G.
If you were still in charge with Cotto, would you make one of those? Would you make that fight with Triple G?
Are you crazy? Of course not. No, I mean, Cotto is really not a middleweight.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate the time. Always a pleasure to talk to Bob Arum, Radio Raheem.